Good morning. This is Janice with Capacity, and I'm joined today by Steve Hewitt of Kansas Turnpike Authority. How are you this morning, Steve?
I'm all right. We're hanging in there. How about yourself?
I'm good. It's Friday. The sun's not out, but it's still a good day. I am really excited for Steve to be here today because as a friend and a client, he exhibits incredible leadership skills in his team. And I am excited for him to kind of walk us through some of the decision making and leadership decisions that they have I just lost my words. Some of the leadership decisions that they have exhibited over the last few weeks through this crisis. So I thought I would pivot this a little different for you, Steve, because I've been hearing some horror stories the last few weeks too of what not to do as a leader from employees' standpoint. And some of the worst examples I could give, and I want you to tell me then what you've done that hasn't been like that at all, is really a breakdown in honesty. So everything's great, we're doing great, we care about you, and then we send out an email in the most impersonal way possible to tell you that an entire department's getting laid off. That kind of disconnect and dishonesty or hiding from the issue and not being direct is really harmful to culture and employees. So I know this is something you would never be guilty of. So I want you to tell me, through the tough decisions you've been making, how is it that you have kept up culture and that communication with your employees?
Well, we hear those stories too. And unfortunately, it's not my first rodeo. This is now really large disaster, my third disaster, Greensburg tornado. Then I dealt with a drought issue that put my community out of water in Oklahoma. And each is different, but there's similar crisis management. There's not a secret sauce to crisis management, but there are some basic leadership things, and you touched on it. Honesty is critical, and being authentic. So us as managers are faced with some really tough challenges, and it's okay to let the staff know that. And you can't do the one-on-ones. It's tough. You can't so the Turnpike, we're spread up and down 236 miles away from Kansas City to Oklahoma border, different locations, different offices. I can't go to each location and see them and talk to them face to face. For the social distancing thing and keep folks safe, that creates a new challenge. So you have to rely on technology. You have to rely on these things now. But there are ways of doing things like with technology, like we're doing right now, face to face, without that you can do that. You can talk to folks, and so what we've tried to do is and I've learned, and this is really the same for all disasters I've faced, is from talking to community, customers, and especially employees, you've got to tell them the truth. So you want to be positive, because I do honestly believe we will get through this, but we are going through some very difficult times. It's tough mentally, physically, financially. It's very difficult, and we have to find a way to weather this storm. And we can't see it. Like when I was a tornado, you see it happen, you begin to rebuild. I feel like right now I'm in my basement and the tornado's on top of me, and it's been going on for now 4 weeks, which feels like 6 months. And it's going to be like this for a while. But so be honest, be thorough, keep people up to speed. You really probably can't communicate enough. So whatever you're communicating right now, you probably could do it 10 times more, and that might not be enough. So we've done it through podcasts. We've done it through videos. We're doing it through live chatting. We're doing it through emails. And the emails they're impersonal. So it's important. Like the emails are information, right? That's like basic facts. But then the emotional thing, like, the videos and the one-on-ones through chatting is like, hey, you see my pain. Guys, it's hard. I told my staff, we did a video last week, and we said we had to face, we've been preparing them financially what we're dealing with. And then we had to say, hey, guys, listen, here we are. So we have to furlough. And we were very honest and thorough and specific on how we did that, because here's a stimulus that you can get. I can't get stimulus. We're caught in between, the KTA is, but I can offer this for you. You can keep your job, keep your benefits, get paid through the stimulus dollars, through unemployment. We would plan on bringing you back when this is through, but we're not going to stop communicating with you. Mm-hmm. You can't go away. And we're honest. But guess what? We're still communicating. We're still having those meetings, even with those furloughed people. Good. Keep talking to us. Here's what's going on. Here's the update. No changes. Yes, changes, because a lot of changes are happening off and on. And so I don't want to ramble in too much about it, but I think you're right. Those horror stories are basically about things change for management, daily. And so you have to get it out there. But the problem is you've got to be a family. So think about how you give the bad news to your son or your daughter or your wife. Mm-hmm. If you think of it like that, then I think that's how you have to treat your employees. Hey, I know your pain is my pain, and here's what I'm going through, and I know you're going through some tough things. So here it is, and that's the truth, and here's the honesty. We're going to get through it, but you got to know what's in front of you, and that's really how I approach it.
No, I really loved what you said. And when you described, your email context is for information and facts, but real announcements and news, it needs to be delivered as well as you can face-to-face, whether that's a video or a video conference, because people need to feel and see your reaction and your actual emotion and be able to also react to that by questions and things like that. So that's really important, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you just got hand delivered the memo to the front door by a stranger. That's really the worst news you've had in months or years. So that connectivity. And I also really appreciate what you're saying, that laid off or furloughed employees are still a touch point, and the same connectivity relates to them as does people who are still working for you. That's a really important message for people to hear, because you need to keep them in the loop, and they need to be aware. Okay, so another example I want you to speak to is really the bad example is demanding perfectionism or the same level of performance from 60 days ago that you are today. And I keep hearing that from employees who are getting almost berated with what they aren't accomplishing when they're also trying to balance life. And you can speak to that as a parent who also has a son at home who's trying to homeschool, right? So how are you dealing with that as a leader?
That's a great point. So the expectations of managers, it's you got to be more like a parent, and it's not easy, because not every parent's great either, obviously, but it's got to be sensitive, and the expectations. So my example is my son. I mow the yard a certain way, and so I've turned it over to him. He's 14 years old, and he's going to mow my yard, and now he's mowing neighbors' yards. But the way he does it, and he's learning, he's not going to be able to do it as well as Dad's done it for 30 years. So now all of a sudden add some kind of emotional changes, right? So if you think of what's happened to employees, and you think that, hey, they're like your family, your kids, they're not going to be able to perform at the highest level, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But if they can show up and they can give their best, they could be homeless, their spouse could be jobless, their parents could be sick. You don't know what's going on, and you have to expect that, hey, we're just going to try to get through day to day. Yes, we have goals to try to accomplish things week to week, year to year. But right now in this crisis, how do we have expectations like my 14-year-old son? He's not going to mow the yard as good as Dad, but he'll take him years to get there. That's okay. Or he's struggling with homework right now because he's completely distanced from any kids, and so he's really struggling with things to focus, right? That's the same as employees. They're my family, and so they're going to have some tough days. And I can tell you already, I've seen it with people. Employee that's upset and angry one day that's typically not angry, or another one that's distant from everybody that's typically not distant, or one who's over communicating, almost like chatty, because they just need to see people and talk, and they're not at their desk doing work because they just need to see people. and that's okay. I think you have got to really attack and deal with this crisis with your people, really with open arms and flexibility. And as managers, do not have expectations that are too high. Mm-hmm. Think about yourself. I doubt if you as a manager are performing at your best. Mm-hmm. And you're coping with things differently. And if you have that mindset, I think you'll be able to get through it. And again, it's not my first crisis, but I will tell you some of the things that each crisis is. Yeah, people go through some emotional roller coasters, and that's okay. That's not a big deal. If they're mad, walk away, or if they're sad, try to help them or offer. But don't try to expect they're going to perform their job at the level they were before this happened. If you do that, then everybody's going to fall short, and then you're just going to have more issues. And let's not have that. So yeah, I get it, and it's just something we have to be flexible and kind and have a heart, And I know that's not easy because there's a bottom line, and we're losing money and yada, yada, yada. Well, you're going to lose. It's going to cost you more if you lose those employees that you really need right now that are essential to you, if you lose them mentally. And so do what you can to just be flexible.
No, I love you saying that, especially from the standpoint, it's almost like a whiteboard, if you can picture that, erasing expectations entirely and just resetting them. Because those kind of demands put the pressure on employees and create disloyalty. And like you said, I'm hopeful we're coming back online, and you need that team to be able to rejoin and it not have eroded some sort of loyalty or a culture development that you are already creating. So you don't want to have to start over. That's a really great way to say it.
It's really just find a way to survive right now, folks. Let's survive. And once we get through this, we'll turn that survival into thriving forward into our planning. Right now, let's survive. And I think that's okay to say, by the way. That's we're still performing at the highest level. Quit saying that.
Right.
Let's just survive and find a way to cope and get through this. And I think that honesty, as we talked earlier, is important to say, important to expect. Your employees are going to have some tough days.
Right. And I'm going to ask you another question, because I think that you are exceptional at this and how you give grace and humanity and positivity to people. But one of the other things I keep hearing is also the perspective that leaders are assuming that employees are sitting at home eating bonbons and on a Netflix binge and not doing their best. So it comes back to that expectation thing, but it's more the emotional side of, I'm assuming that you're taking advantage of me. And it creates a self-doubt in that relationship. And so speak to that from a leader standpoint. You are exceptional how you view your employees, and I want you to speak to that.
Yeah. So yeah, there is, I've heard it already, employees come to me and say, well, they're probably not doing anything at home. There's not that much work going on, and yada, yada, and all the, that stuff, you've got to roll that stuff off. Right now, anything they can provide, working from home or distancing themselves because of the health scare, that's just needs to happen. And so it's really that's where leaders have to really stand up and not get caught up in the little frivolous, items that other coworkers want to do. Be above that and get anything you can out of employees. They might be home. You know what I probably think they're doing? I bet they're watching the news or reading the internet and freaking out. And they're trying to just do what they can to provide you what they can. But understand that things can be slower too right now. Our business has dropped off 60%. There's not as much work to do. So, but I still have some needs that need to be completed, and if they can be home and complete those, yeah, they might be in their pajamas watching Fox News or MSNBC or whatever, but they're still to provide me what I need in, say, accounting or IT. I'm okay with that. And we need to not worry about the fact that, well, they might be taking advantage of us. They could be here doing more, yada, yada. No, dude. We need to, as leaders, just try to squash that and remain positive that our people are doing something for us. And again, this is a crisis that's short term. even if it lasts 6 months or 9 months, it's still short term in the scheme of things. Let's just get through this thing. And leaders have to step up and make tough decisions. And a tough decision might be telling other employees, hey, don't worry about that Johnny or Susie's working from home and you're here. You're essential here, they're essential at home. And that's just the way it has to be right now. Being fair doesn't mean it has to be equal, and that's okay. And I think that's the message that has to continue to come out of leaders from the message they send all the time.
Now that was perfect. I think that encapsulates the entire conversation. Being fair doesn't mean equal, and that you can make different decisions based on different people, and that our assumption needs to be trust. And it needs to be that the employee that was here 60 days ago is performing to the best of their ability at home or wherever they are. It's the same. It's just their circumstances are chaos, just like the professional circumstances. So we're all doing our best, regardless. So I appreciate the way you summarize that. So tell me how you have found silver lining and on the bright side for you personally and professionally.
Well, I think personally, starting off with, it was funny. I was talking to my wife the other day. We're sitting at the kitchen table, we're eating, and I looked up and I said, "Hey guys," it's me, my wife, and my son, and I go, "We're eating at the kitchen table. We never eat at the kitchen table. Our life has always been on the go with ball games or this or that and work, and we're eating the car, eating in front of the TV on the couch, this, that, and eating different times, or all eating different locations. We're actually sitting here having a conversation, having a real dinner." And as a kid, I remember that, and that hasn't happened much in the last 20 years. We're actually having a conversation. We're talking about the day, and we're having a real meal that we've cooked ourselves and not gone out, and it was kind of nice, it was a normal. It felt like I was a kid again with mom and dad sitting down, and it was kind of nice. Professionally, I think what we've seen, and there's always a silver line, there's always opportunities. And again, so technology, we've really been working hard to modernize the Turnpike over the last few years. And here we're really finding out some of that as a benefit. And then we also are finding out that the direction we're going was really needed, because learning that we can, have people work from home. We now can also learning how to do this in a better way with policies, procedures, and methods. Learning we can probably attract some more talent that might not have, hey, you have to be in the office 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. We might be able to attract some folks that, hey, they are great talent. They want to work from home a couple days a week, and they've got kids, and we want to get them because they've got a great resume, and they're great talented folks, and we couldn't get them earlier because we demanded now we can have. I think we're learning a lot about that. I think we learn about ourselves. Mm-hmm. I'm excited about where we're going in our modernization, and it really justified and has proven to me and our board and our staff that effort is paying off, and it will pay off in the future for customers, for our bottom line business, for our employees. And so I think that's really good as well. I think we're coming together as a staff, a leadership team, our top managers. I think small things that got in the way, or we're realizing, okay, we can't have those. No sense for that. We're coming together as a family better. I think that's important. And crisis management, I think, can do that. Mm-hmm. It can help relationships get better. And I feel we're doing that as a team. We're getting there. We're communicating really well. Technology, communicating with our employees, like we're doing a WebEx Zoom thing with employees today. Never done that before. We're doing these podcasts, and we're cranking those out. We just had started those before the crisis. Now we're really utilizing that. So I'm learning a lot of things and tools that we had just started to learn about. Now we're able to implement, and I think it's only a positive thing moving in the future that we can utilize it in our day-to-day business.
Now, I really appreciate both of those perspectives, especially professionally, and I've heard this from a lot of really successful leaders right now, is they are finding ground to stand on that they didn't know was possible, or they didn't have the space or time for, that has enabled innovation and transitions for how they interact with not just employees, but possible clientele in the future, or customers and vendors. And I think that is amazing. I think it's amazing that human spirit has that innate innovation to push limits when given challenges.
That's a great point, because you're pushed to be as efficient and productive as possible right now with less resources.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to utilize the resources you have to be that. That will make us provide a better product to our customers and for our business moving forward in the future when it gets to be back, the new normal comes back. I'm really excited about that, because we are really being efficient in ways we have to be, because our revenue has been slashed so much right now. So how do we get through that? Well, that will make us better moving forward.
No, that's awesome. I really thank you so much for your perspective as a leader, as a friend, as a client. And I'm excited for what you guys have been accomplishing, and I'm excited for the changes that I keep hearing about probably over the next 6 to 9 months as you continue to move forward out of this.
Oh, I really think that we can come out on the other end of this a better organization.
Mm-hmm.
The trials and tribulations right now will be very, very difficult and hard. Like every organization, every business, it's going to be really tough right now, but we'll be better on the other side. But now that you've asked me a few questions, I want to flip it a little bit. I have a couple questions for you, because I want my team to see this and hear this as well. So because of the stress level, and I have my opinion on how to deal with some things, but what words of wisdom and tips would you have for some of my folks that are dealing with the stress of sickness and the virus and working from home and being isolated, and some of the furloughed employees that we have out there? What's the advice you could give to some of my people?
I love that. Thank you for giving me the space to talk, because I have lots of words that always want to come out. I love to talk. The most important thing as individuals is that we take care of ourselves. And so you have to know what your happy place is, and the place where you can get calm, and you have to fight for that space and take it. So whether that's you need a long walk, you need a more people time, you need the interaction of comfort food, whatever it is, a long bath, a glass of wine, music. There are different ways that especially as an extroverted person who needs more people time, is I've had to really be creative for how I'm feeding that part of me so I don't feel isolated. So it's trying to be innovative and intentional so that I don't put my needs aside, because like you said, we've all encountered crisis in our lives, whether it's been this global or not, but it's never been this deep for a lot of people, meaning sometimes it hits us financially, it sometimes hits us physically, emotionally, but it's hitting all of those factors, and it's hitting us in a space of uncomfortableness, right? Where we're having to do multiple tasks simultaneously from geographical locations that create a challenge, and it's challenging us emotionally, whether or not there's a pressure cooker at home. You said you're having great meal time with your family. That's fantastic. For some people and families, if they have 4 little kids at home and they're a pressure cooker, and mom and dad are both trying to cook, work from home and deal with homeschooling, that's a hot box that you might need to make sure you're spending time and giving the adults the space they need to fill a happy place, and that each kid is also getting it. So it might be taking a couple of hours to be intentional about what that looks like for a week schedule. And that would be the most important thing, because then you alleviate some of the distress that enables you to be who you are and the best version of you.
Well, I echo that. I appreciate those comments. And as a team builder yourself, I wanted my folks to hear from someone besides me and my team all the time that, hey, what we're saying in the information we're sending you is right on, and so spot on. So I appreciate those words, because you're right. It's communicating and listening, but also being exercising and exercising your mind, but exercising your body. And you're right. Sometimes I've fallen in love with gin. Maybe it's a bad thing, but gin and tonic at night is like, the day's over, have a gin and tonic, off to bed we go, up, and here we go the next day. But whatever it takes, right? If it's grilling out, having a glass of wine, taking a run, taking the dog for a walk, it is find that place to cope with this right now. So I appreciate those words, and thank you for helping me spread that to my staff as well.
Well, and I want to add something too. There's a couple more layers because I could talk for a long time. But I just heard on the radio the other day, I can't remember what country it was. I think it might have been Russia, that the government is allowing people who have dogs in certain hot spot locations to walk their dogs and get exercise, but other people can't. So now the people who own pets are renting their animals to other people. So there's like a side hustle and a benefit. So the people are finding innovative ways to get around the rules by being able to get out and walk. And so I think finding innovation within ourselves, creativity in a time where we were talking about it professionally, I think individually it allows us to expand capacity in a way that we maybe wouldn't have before because of crisis. But also, this is why I'm doing kind of on the bright side, is to look for humor. Regardless of our personality types, we need to be on the positive side, and we need to be looking for things that we can laugh at, because those endorphins can help us relieve that stress and reset also. And you know, all of us belly laugh for different reasons, whether it's a movie or a book or a conversation, but finding ways to be positive and uplifting, it allows us to quit pulling that weight around every day. And that's really important.
Oh, you hit it right on the nail on laughter. You gotta laugh. You gotta have some humor in your life. I mean, I'd go insane. I mean, so texting buddies back and forth, and we're sending funny memes and things, just trying to keep ourselves sane a little bit. You know, find a funny story where a 90-year-old lady we saw was on her porch, and can someone give me a beer? And Coors Light dropped off 15 cases to the old lady. So we were just loving those funny stories.
I saw that one.
That's great, you know. So I appreciate that, because I've tried to goof off a little bit in some of our staff meetings before we start off, because we got to, man, I just don't know how you cope with it without having a little laughter in your life.
I know. I had a friend send me this morning. I don't know what date it is anymore, you know, because we don't have demarcation of time. But the meme said, I think today's like April 94th. You know, because it feels like it's gone on a long period of time. So we have to find a way to give the thing perspective and laugh at the things that are ridiculous. You know, 60 days ago, we would not have believed this is possible, right? It feels like an episode of the Stranger Things. So the last thing I want to add to that, especially from a professional standpoint for individuals and teams and leaders, is that it is an opportunity not just for innovation and creativity, but to stretch ourselves and examine those things that are making us uncomfortable right now. So if you're feeling uncomfortable or fearful or have anxiety, is to allow yourself to sit in it long enough to understand what's driving that. Is it financial? Is it emotional? Is it personal? First of all, that can help you maybe meet a need that you have and fill your happy tank a little bit better. But second of all, it might help you process through decisions and enable you to grow. So there is no better way to pull the curtain back on the character of our heart than to put us in a vice of crisis like this on top of each other in seclusion. So, I mean, if we're going to get something out of this, let's get some fruit. And so allow that pressure to drive out that feeling and get to the bottom of it. Don't avoid it. Make eye contact with it and allow yourself to grow so that you can be more courageous. You can be brave. You can be strong. You can have confidence. And hope. You know, it's one of those things. You have to allow those good things to then erupt out of that pressure.
I couldn't agree more. I think it is. This is unique times we live in, and so it's like getting back to the basics. Mm-hmm. What's it take for me to survive right now? And all those things you said they're spot on. So I appreciate those things, because I'm going to share this with my staff as well. Hey, there's so many good lessons out there, and we're in this together. So many people here helping us. And so if we can offer help, and then we appreciate your help as well. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for joining me. Steve Hewitt of the Kansas Turnpike Authority. This is Janice Perkins with Capacity on the Bright Side.